Hey, welcome to another edition of Kyle Meredith with. It's the interview series presented by WFPK and WFPK.org, Consequence and the Consequence Podcast Network. Thanks as always for making your way here, for checking out the series. Hit that subscribe button, of course, so you can keep up with every episode that we put out every single week. You get a new one every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. 3 interviews a week to keep you up to date on your favorite artists and discover the new ones. You can grab us Spotify, Apple Podcast, NPR, WFPK.org, Consequence, or of course right here on YouTube for the video versions. Basically anywhere you get your podcasts from, you can subscribe to Kyle Meredith with. And that's me, Kyle Meredith, today catching up with Caleb Followill of Kings of Leon to talk about their brand new record, Can We Please Have Fun? This finds them in a kind of a resurgence, refining themselves in a looser, more fun manner. So we're going to talk all about that. I want to hear the inspirations that comes from books like The Artist's Way to even post-punk bands like Idles and Fontaines DC. With some U2 as well in there. We're going to talk about all that and more. I love these guys. I love this new album. Let's get into it. We're talking Can We Please Have Fun? It's Kyle Meredith with Caleb Followill.
There you go.
Here we are back with Can We Please Have Fun? I should also say I'm in Louisville and it's Derby week, and I've just had Mustang. It's been in my head nonstop forever, and it's more thoroughbreds, of course, right now. But talk about the perfect song for the perfect season. So, extra.
Yeah, that is good. I don't know if we've used it for that, but that's a good outlet for it for sure.
Yeah. Well, there's what I'm just now remembering because there's another lyric on the album, right, about losing money on the ponies.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
lost a couple of dollars on the ponies in the rain.
It's raining. I don't bet on them. I've grown up here. I don't bet on. I've learned my lesson. So it's yeah. It's
I've
uh,
I've done some degenerate gambling on horses.
yeah.
But usually it's like a dollar here, a dollar there.
Yeah. I think my
Fun though.
son doing that has won more money than I have ever won doing legitimate bets. So it's
Yeah. Well, I know a guy that does that. He watches like horse races that happen all hours of the day and night, and he'll bet 30 cents on something, a quarter on this. And when he hits, it's shocking.
it's real.
I mean, it's like, wow, he won $100 on a dime. That's pretty cool.
Well, man, this seriously, this record is so good. It is so fun, and even in the darker moments, and there's some really great darker moments on this too. But this record, I know you all have talked about this, especially in the other interviews and press releases and stuff. But every band seems to get a point in their career when you've been around for 20 years, you kind of need a kickstart. Something needs to happen. And you talk about the soul searching that kind of went on this record. Where did you have to go, and what did you find?
Where did I have to go? I didn't really have to go anywhere. I actually had to just kind of um, look around me and accept, you know, where I am, you know. So actually, in a way, I feel like I kind of went home, even though I've been here. I really embraced the idea of being home and uh, the life that we built. And yeah, so I kind of buried myself away here in my own house in this little office and dove into, reading a lot of books and not watching television much and not getting on the internet much and not kind of closing myself off to the outside world. And it's amazing if you do that, if the story is big enough, it'll find you. So, you know, I feel like I have people that are like, how do you do that? Like, are you not scared that something's happening in the world and you're missing it? And it's like, no, because I feel like that's the point. That's what they want you to feel, right? So that you keep watching. But I just kind of buried myself away and just tried to find out what it is about myself that I wanted to improve. And yeah, it was actually a magical time. Uh, and I feel like I did kind of rediscover the passion that I have for songwriting and for poetry and creative fearlessness and just like the youthful way of writing songs, which is not considering that you have an audience or that anyone out there cares. And so it's quite therapeutic to kind of write for yourself, because in a way you start to talk to yourself and answer some questions that you may have buried away. Um, but yeah, it was a magical thing, and I come back to this office uh, daily, and I look around and I'm like, man, how I don't understand how I was so inspired by this little room, but I was.
Yeah. It's interesting because I was remembering last time we talked and we were talking about television because we were talking about like cowboy shows
Hmm.
and you know and how much that seemed to have influenced the last one and then to turn around and be the opposite. Although I did what there's a book well, like I'm sure there are lots of books, but you talked about The Artist's Way a little bit and
Hmm.
that sounded like that had maybe a bit more of a bigger impact than the other ones.
Yeah, that book that really opened me up. I was kind of already in the process of uh, isolation a little bit, um, and that book had just been sitting on my desk for a long time, along with a lot of other books. Um, and I didn't really even consider it, you know. And just one day, I picked it up and was just kind of thumbing through, and pretty straight away, you know, the fact that it was like one of those things where you read a little bit and then you kind of apply it, and then you read a little bit more and you apply it. It made it less intimidating, and it just became joyful. And really, the thing of that book that that really has been the most helpful to me is the morning pages. You know, just kind of waking up first thing in the morning before you have time to think. Don't look at your phone. Don't do anything. Just spill. Just just unload on a few pages of paper. And I'm that was like something that was good to kind of get stuff out, but it also just made me want to write more. It was just like I at first you start by kind of just like regurgitating whatever is in you, and then by the end of it, it was poetic, and it was. And then I would put on like some nice soft music in the background, cup of coffee, and you can kind of a lot of times you can hear your what you're reading, you know, that it's influencing you, because if you're reading a John Grisham book or something, then all of a sudden you're writing like you're some Southern lawyer or something.
Right.
Um, Whereas if you're reading, you know, something maybe a little more profound, you might write a little more profound. But yeah, that book, you know, it spoke to me, and it still does.
Funny, I've been doing something similar, and going back and reading classics that I've never read, just like
Hmm.
fill in the holes. And I was doing some Fitzgerald for the first time. I've never read Fitzgerald, but suddenly I'm going around talking like I'm living in 1920 to my wife, and it doesn't fly
Yeah,
far.
they don't let you talk to them that way anymore, do
Not like that. Not like that. No, they don't. But just some of those words, like that's swell, honey. That's it's, it's fun. Yeah, I think I mean there's feels like there's something in the air, and usually these are just big coincidences, if you believe in coincidence. Like Pearl Jam. I don't know if you still keep up with the guys from I know you guys
Oh
did some,
yeah.
but like have you heard like they're sort of going through this same sort of rebirth right now, and it's like a lot of my favorite bands mentally for different reasons kind of feel like they're in a similar spots, you know? I don't know if you see that.
Yeah, I was talking to my wife about it, because we'd just done like a little run in South America, and the headlining bill, I was like, wow, it's like I've been in a time machine. You know, the headliners are like Limp Bizkit and Blink 182, and like all these artists that have been a while, you know, that were around before us, really. Um, and then you see like Pearl Jam putting out a record. You feel like all these big rock acts are putting out music. And I told my wife, I was like, it's like the world got to a place where it was like, all right, like we're all the Avengers, and it's like call the rock bands. We need music. Like no more of the stuff that we like. We need someone to come and kick the door in. So it's pretty awesome to see all these bands that inspired us doing it, and hopefully inspiring more people, and hopefully our music is inspiring them too.
I'd watch that Avengers movie.
Yeah, I think there's something there that could be a pretty good little movie, a little comedy about rock and roll bands getting them off the couch. I think there's Spinal Tap 2 or something.
Sure, absolutely. What, on that same line of coincidences, the fact that you all were making this at or around the time of your 20th anniversary of your debut. And for us fans that are looking for certain things, you can find those threads, like those sounds and everything. Was that on your mind at all as you were doing it?
I mean, I feel like we were running away from the 20-year anniversary. That was something that was kind of brought up to us, and we knew it was kind of an easy one to do. You go out there and you kind of give a wave and play the hits, and people celebrate your successes. Uh, but I wasn't ready for that. I was like, oh no, not yet. And first of all, I can't believe it's been 20 years. Second of all, this is not, like, I'm not ready to wave yet. Like I feel like it almost in a way kind of it made us a little upset at the thought of being like that tribute band. So it pushed us to kind of push ourselves a little further, and to get something else, something fresh, something new, the next chapter. And you do these interviews with bands, and it's always, this is our best one, this is all that shit. Um, but for me, it did push me into the next phase, to where I'm like, I'm very proud of everything that we've done, but I am very much looking forward to the future. And if that means it's just this record and what this album's going to bring to the live show, or to our legacy, or to the thing, but I know deep down it's more than that. There's already songs that I can't wait to write and record, because this album inspired them. So it has pushed us into the next phase, but in the best way possible. I feel like I'm as inspired as I was from the very beginning, and I haven't been that inspired in the last 10 years, I know.
Yeah, that's as you were saying that, I was trying to go through my head of bands that put out a record this good 20 years in it. Like U2's All That You Can't Leave Behind is one of the only
Mm-hmm.
ones that comes. I'm sure there are others, but stuff like it's a rarity. And you guys did like, man, I'm sure that was going against every piece of professional advice. Don't do the 20th anniversary thing, and you say do the new record, and you bet on yourself and you win. Like that's big.
Yeah, I did go on a little vacation. We were on the beach, and I was writing, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to listen to the classics. Same thing with you with reading the classics. I also did that. I was reading books that are over my head, but I felt like I had to do it.
Yeah.
And it was albums. And so I'd look up all the top lists, best of all time, Rolling Stone magazine. All the lists have like some like eye rollers where it's like, that's not the best, but it's cool to say it. So you put it in there. Um, but a lot of them I would listen to, and then I would go, all right, which album is this? And you would look at it, and was it Fleetwood Mac? Was it Rumors? Is that their 12th album, I believe?
Yeah, but yeah, because they have one of those weird timelines, of course, though, because it was Peter Green's
That it was a
and
different,
all of this. Yeah, right.
right, right.
Yeah.
But a lot of these albums that I would look at, very rarely was it album one or two or even three. It was after they had kind of, maybe there was some turmoil, and then they found their love for it again, and that's when things started to hit. So I did believe that we had that in us, and that U2 reference is obviously one that we kept going, like, hey, remember, man, Beautiful Day, when that came out? Like, that was. And the sad thing, or it's not sad, it's great, but like for me, when that album came out, it was like, wow, U2, they're back. And then you look at how old they were, and they are our age, you
Yeah.
know. And when it came out, I was thinking like, wow, look at these old dudes. They're. But then we went on tour with them, and it was the album after that we went on tour with them. And Nathan was like, yeah, Bono was my age. And we're like, what? No way,
Gotta
because
mess
your
with you.
memory, you think that people are older or younger or
Mhm.
whatever, but it's pretty much on trajectory for what. I doubt we'll have that kind of success, but we at least we survived to be as old as they were when they made that album.
I've got this love affair with the albums that didn't work, you know.
Hmm.
I always say, in a very generalized version, my favorite albums are like the sophomore slumps, you know, or whatever, even when they're not the sophomore albums. When we talk about U2, the album before All That You Can't Leave Behind was Pop. I love Pop. Pop was sort of a failure, but I love Pop. But I find it interesting how they talk about it. I find it interesting something that you said a minute ago about the last few years of you, because like I don't have, there's not a Kings of Leon record that I don't like, and most of them I'll even love. But you know, it's right there, right? It's neck and neck.
Yep.
But for you as an artist, that's probably different. I mean, now that you look back, because when the record comes out, it's the best record we've ever done.
Yeah.
And then time happens, and maybe you get influenced by outside
Yeah.
reviews, fans, or whatever. Like, do you look back on your catalog and go, I wish I could do that one over?
Yeah. A lot. Um, but then once enough time passes, then you revisit that and you go like, oh man, I didn't know what I was talking about. Now I love that record, you know. But a lot of times you can you can remember the time when you made it, and that can affect how you feel about it. Like if it was a time when you were kind of struggling and the band just wasn't seeing eye to eye, or it felt like you were working really hard to get something done, um, it can have that kind of a stain on your memory. And so you write off the music. But then when you listen back down the road, you can hear the struggle, and in a way, you can hear the triumph,
Mhm.
because you can hear like, oh man, it was a battle, and then you hear that one moment and that one song, and you go like, oh, the clouds parted for a second, and it was all worth it for that one little moment, you know. And I feel like that's just kind of how it goes with making music, and I'm sure with other forms of art or life or whatever, you sometimes it's those struggles that get you to the certain point that you look back on the struggles and you almost appreciate that more than the success. I saw it written down somewhere and it said bumpy roads lead to beautiful places. And I was like, that's true, you know? And that's, and you know, you can even think about like, I enjoy exercising these days. I feel like it's just something that comes with age. It's like you got to do it or you don't. But you know, you can have those. For me, it was even like a year or maybe even more where you feel like you're doing good or whatever, and you know, but it's nothing that inspiring. And then one day you look in the mirror and you go like, "Holy shit! Like, what is that muscle? I didn't notice that." And it was that long period of just waking up and going like, "I'm gonna go in there again. I'm gonna keep doing it." And then one day you look up and it's like, "Oh, it's paying off."
Mhm.
And I feel like that's what happens a lot of time with your career, making music. You know, those struggles really shape everything about it. And when you do finally start to appreciate what you've accomplished, it's because of all the ups and downs and the waves.
Yeah. Yeah, what they've led to on here. And I was even thinking about some of your lyrics. I mean, that verse about the baby in the plane, I know where to run. And even like you have these really poetic moments, and you still find a way to slip in to make them fun. I mean, in
Hmm.
Mustang, was it a muscle magazine next to the toilet? I can feel myself getting stronger just thinking about it. Like
Hmm.
that's that's one of those like observational comic. Like that's something they
Hmm.
would pull off, you know. That's something like that.
Yeah.
Like where does that come from? Where does that line come from?
I don't know. As I said, as it came into my head, I chuckled and I thought like, oh man, anytime there's like a lyric where I know that people's brain is going to take it one way, but there's going to be that moment when they're going like, oh, there's no way that's what he meant. So then they kind of they start to have this conflict in their head about a lyric, and I'm like, all right, well then it worked. You know,
Mhm.
now people are interpreting the way they want. Um, but I made sure to kind of pepper those little moments throughout the album, um, and I'm sure that line and a couple of others, there was some funny looks in the studio of people going like, "You're not going with that, right?" Like you just wrote all this really nice stuff, and then before you know it, while giving fate a chance, I split my favorite pants and backed out of the chat room. Like, what the hell are you talking about? And to be honest, I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. And that's the beauty of it. You know, with these songs that for me as a writer, your first line has to be great.
Mm.
That's the only thing. If you got the first line, then it's done. Song's good because that first line will get your head going. And then before you know it, you're just following along. And this song is writing itself. And the song was probably written another time years ago, and you're just discovering it for yourself, you know? So for me, there are very few things that I have to do. The first line has to be great, has to kind of get you going, and then try to not take yourself too seriously because we have so many songs where it's, you know, sad or down on your luck or a little too honest or a little too much, you know. And with this, it's like, I want you to be hooked. I want you to come on the ride, and then I want to jar you a little bit with something that makes you go like, "What?
Right.
No, it's not right."
But that's what sticks. I mean, that's those moments, you know. I love those moments as a fan. Even on, like I said, the heavier moments, like take a song like Hesitation Generation. Like you're talking about some
Hmm.
big stuff right there too. And just the way you all lay it out, that driving music that's happening in that one, what you're doing vocally, like I'm not saying it's you know, medicine with a spoonful of sugar. It's not exactly that.
Hmm.
But at the same time, I mean, we are working in, you know, the constructs of pop music, you know, with
Yeah.
all of this. So I appreciate that because I love what you're saying in that song and what I've at least read about what you're talking about. Fucking love just listening to it, cranking it up, you know.
Yeah, we tried to not tried to. I felt like we kept having these moments throughout the record where we would kind of be questioning what we were doing musically, and then one of us would say something about post punk, and then we'd all go, "Yeah,
Right.
post punk," and then it made everything forgiven. It was like, "Oh, let's just lean into the post punk," and then the whole song would kind of feel different to us, even though the change wouldn't have been that drastic that we made. But yeah, that post punk thing kind of it made everything feel a little cooler. So then it made me feel a little freer to be cheeky or you know whatever it was that I felt like the song needed to be.
What a perfect moment for that. I mean, I was literally thinking because I was editing an interview I did with Joe from the band Idols, and just thinking
Hmm.
about this moment that we're in, Idols and Fontaines and et cetera. It's you know, and going all the way back, of course, to the origin of the genre in the '80s. But just like, what a great moment for that to be a guiding lights. And not saying that you're trying to set yourself up with a movement, but that sound is working right now.
Yeah, and those two bands in particular were pretty big influence. I feel like Idols I kind of discovered at the back end of the album. And little did I know the rest of the band had kind of heard some of their music, but I hadn't really heard it. But Fontaines was something that I would go on my morning runs or whatever, and I would always crank it, and I would always be like, "These fucking guys, man, this is good." And then one day I was like, "You know what? I'm going to play along to it." And so I got an acoustic, and I was like, "Okay, those three chords." Then the next song came on. I was like, "Oh, I love this." And I was like, "Hey, that's the same three chords." Next song, same three chords. I was like, "These fucking guys have confused us all." Like it's just the honesty in the song, the
Mhm.
simplicity of it, but you've got that kind of that hunger and that like I want to be better than you mentality, and I'm a competitive guy. And so when I hear Idols and I hear Fontaines, I'm like, all right, boys, let's go. Let's duke it out.
Let's do it. I can hear that in some of the riffs now on this record. That's I love that. That's some of my favorite stuff. There's another band. If you, I'm sending you a recommendation. They're called The Scratch. I know next to nothing about them, but they have a song called Cheeky Bastard. It's right in line with the stuff you're talking about. Look it up. It's one of my favorite things.
The Scratch.
The Scratch is a song
Wow.
called Cheeky Bastard. You'll get some laughs out of it. You'll have some fun too. Uh, it's pretty cool.
Well, they should go on tour with a band called The Sniff, and then you'd have Scratch and Sniff.
And he's a dad as well, y'all. That's
I can't wait to check out The Scratch.
do it.
Where are they from?
Ireland. Yeah, because he's got a very Irish uh voice to him.
Would you
Like
say
the
his voice is? Would you say his voice is scratchy? Sorry.
hey man, I've got a 16-year-old. I can do that all day, don't do. So, uh yeah, no, it is true because um there's like I had to second guess several times what he was saying because I thought he was saying one thing. But I'm not gonna give up the joke, but there's a really, really good Oasis reference. That's worth it. But about halfway through the song, it's after the second chorus, they just rip into this long guitar thing. That's just it's like I said, it's one of my favorite things right now.
I'm gonna check it out right now.
Can we please have fun? I love this record. I do, man. I always love what you do. I so appreciate that you keep doing it. And it's a pleasure to talk with you again. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Yeah, man, it's my honor.
And thanks to my guest. Also, thanks to you for checking out the episode in the series. Before you get out of here, hit that subscribe button. Again, you get 3 brand new interviews every single week. New one every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at right here on YouTube, or of course anywhere in podcast land, including iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podchaser, NPR, or WFPK.org as well. A great way to keep up with your favorite artists and discover new ones as well. Then after that, actually head over to WFPK.org. That's where I do a show Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern. It's an hour full of song premieres, music news, anniversary spins, bonus interviews, Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern at WFPK.org. Consequence has your music and film news. You can also find me on the social media spots, Facebook, Instagram, mostly on Twitter. All 3 of them, the address is at Kyle Meredith. Do hope you like and follow along. That does it for another edition. I'm Kyle Meredith. I'll see you next time.